the Archivist of Vaelthorn.
The city knows what it needs. It calls to those it requires, and we do not always understand the calling until it is far too late. From the collected journals of an unknown Vaelthornian archivist.
Isolde Vane had long since made peace with the perpetual twilight. She'd been born into it, or, well, so she assumed, since her earliest memories were just saturated in that same violet indigo half-light that stained every single waking hour of life in Vaelthorn. She grew up sketching the elongated shadows the twin moons cast upon the cobblestones, and she learned early on that beauty really lived in the spaces between light and dark, not in either one alone. She had trained herself to see.
This was her gift and her burden, and it was the very quality that made her perfectly suited to her work. You see, Isolde was the junior curator of the Athenaeum of Dusk, Vaelthorn's great library of forgotten arts.
She cataloged, preserved, and studied the city's magical and artistic heritage, which really just meant her days were spent in rooms that smelled of aged parchment and dying enchantment, surrounded by objects that remembered better times.
She didn't mind. Objects were easier than people. They didn't ask questions she couldn't answer.
On the morning that everything changed, and calling it morning was, as always in Vaelthorn, more a matter of convention than astronomical fact, Isolde was doing what she always did, walking.
Her route, from her rooms in the Luminara Quarter to the Athenaeum, took her right through the Vanes district, along a narrow canal path hemmed in by buildings so tall they formed a canyon of stone and glowing moss.
She was thinking about the manuscript that had completely consumed her for the past 3 weeks, a document in an unknown script, on paper from some impossible origin. It just resisted aging, defied every conservation test she ran, and only gave back contradictions. Old and new, simultaneously. Which was impossible, of course.
She was so deep in thought, she nearly walked right into the crows.
There were maybe 24 of them, arranged on the iron railing of the canal bridge with an attention and stillness that was just deeply strange. Crows weren't uncommon in Vaelthorn, but Isolde had never seen them gathered like this, so silent and motionless, all facing the exact same direction.
As she got closer to the bridge, he saw they were all looking the same way, toward the far end of the canal where it curved out of sight. So she slowed her pace. She looked where the crows were looking. There was nothing, just a stretch of canal path, pale stone, the glow of moss on the wall, and shadow.
And that...
There was something at the very edge of her perception, a pressure she couldn't quite locate. You know, the way a sound can sometimes register as a feeling in your chest before your ears even make sense of it. Isolde had learned to trust this sense. The crows scattered, all at once, with a sound like black thunder. They lifted from the railing and just vanished into the violet sky. And in that moment they were gone. The pressure in Isolde's chest dissolved, just as abruptly as it had arrived.
The Athenaeum of Dusk was housed in a former cathedral. It still had the high vaulted ceilings and vast arched windows of colored glass. The perpetual twilight would filter through them in this kaleidoscopic confusion, all of it designed to make you feel both elevated and humbled at the same time.
Isolde had loved it since her first day as a junior apprentice. She was 16 when the senior curator, old Elias Vorne, pressed a small key into her palm and said, with all the gravity of someone conferring a knighthood, "You are now a keeper of what was. Do not take this lightly."
And she hadn't. She had spent the last 8 years taking nothing lightly at all.
She had barely even settled at her desk in the east wing when a shadow fell across her work. She looked up, expecting Maris, but instead she found a boy she barely recognized. "A message from the gate warden," he said, holding out a folded card.
Isolde took the card and opened it. It had the Athenaeum seal on one side and on the other, the warden's precise copperplate script. Visitor arriving this evening. Individual in possession of materials of potential institutional interest.
Admission granted by authority of Senior Curator Thane. Please ensure East Wing reading room is prepared.
A visitor. With materials. Isolde looked from the card to the manuscript on her desk, the one with the paper that refused to decide what era it was from, and she felt it again, that pressure in her chest.
She told herself it was nothing, and then she began to prepare the reading room.
And that was an excerpt from the book Crimson Echoes of Eternity, an immortal love story. It's available on Amazon